Hey everyone, I'm excited to introduce to you Sabrina Saurez.
Hi.
She practice called Sabia Artistry, right?
Yeah.
You got yes, got it.
Yes.
And we connected through the Summit of Greatness, which is this amazing. Well, actually, I'll let you explain what it is.
Yeah, so we met through Summit of Greatness, which I like to call kind of just a gathering of really like-minded, kind, like soulful entrepreneurs. And we met in line, actually. We met in line for the event, just kind of got to talking and then stayed connected.
Yeah. And what I think one of the big things I've noticed about you is just like your ball of energy, like you're super authentic. And I remember like when I first met you, I was like, whoa, like like because I would say I'm pretty energetic, and a lot of people I think
Mhm.
like pretty energetic, but you're like on a league of your own.
Yay!
In a bad way, but in like oh okay, like she's definitely been doing a lot of self-development work,
Mm.
like able
Well, I have, so I'm glad it shows.
and it's interesting, like when I connected with you earlier today, you shared with me that you weren't always like that. Like you were, when you spoke to people, there would be like a purpose. Like it's like, oh well, if I'm not getting anything, or what can he or she do for me, I wouldn't like get on a call with them, right?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely came from a place a couple years ago where like you said, like everything had to have a purpose. Like authentic connection in and of itself was not enough. Like, but I came from like a space within myself of not enoughness a lot. So then my external was just mirroring my internal, and a lot of things I was just like striving for, but was never getting what authentic connection gifts me, really. I mean, like, I know a lot of people who are continually striving and striving and striving, but like not actually hitting the mark, or like not feeling like whatever they're doing is enough. And I was absolutely operating from that space. So in terms of like what we were talking about in just connecting with someone, I needed to know that I was going to get something out of it in order for me to invest in it. And so yeah.
That's awesome because I definitely feel like I have this, or I had. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I wouldn't say like I'll do that sometimes still, right? Sometimes I'm kind of like, hmm, like I wonder like who this person can introduce me to, or I wonder if this person could be someone interesting I could interview for my podcast.
Mhm, mhm.
Good place, right? It's not like coming from a place of like, oh, like I'm gonna like cash out on this podcast. It's like, oh no, this I think like people would be interested in hearing like what you have to say.
Mhm. It's really interesting that you say that, actually, because that just triggered for me something just within myself. An area of growth that I focused on is just like when I go into things with an agenda,
Mm.
it absolutely is conveyed in the tiniest of ways. Like, and it might even be a good agenda, like you're saying, like, I want to further the world and connection and kindness and love and whatever it is. Like, but if I go in with, okay, what can I get out?
Mm.
It's like I really have found that I get skipped things that actually mean more in the long run than me coming from a place of instant gratification. And sometimes I just butcher it when I go in with an agenda, and it's like it comes across so clearly, like people pick up on inauthenticity so fast. And they're like, what do you want? And it's like especially in society today, they're like, what do you want to sell me? Stop. Like their guard is already up.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's actually harder to go in with just like a clean slate and be like, I don't know what or if I will get anything out of this,
Mhm.
but like I'm just going to show up and see what I can contribute. And like if I go into conversations just asking myself, what can I contribute? How can I be in contribution in any given moment? I've gotten way better results long term and like instantly there within the conversation. It's just of so much higher quality.
I feel like that's so much harder to do than, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that makes sense in theory, but
Hmm.
man, it's a practice for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I feel like are just hardwired to be like, okay, what is this providing me? I have a certain like amount of needs that need to be met and that I want to be met. And especially if we're very like future focused, driven, like people who have a lot of purpose, it's like really being intentional with that purpose because we can let that purpose drive us. And in any given moment, it's not always something that I personally feel like needs to be in the driver's seat.
Hmm,
Sometimes it just needs to be like kindness is in the driver's seat, or empathy, or love, or compassion, or connection, like
hmm,
anything that's like feeling based, human based. And then whatever it is that we want will absolutely come.
hmm.
And I think just in terms of like being effective in sourcing that type of stuff, like just being intentional in a different way has been really supportive for me.
Wow, so many goodies here. So obviously, like, I'm curious to how you even came about next level training in the first place,
Mhm.
and then maybe give some people some context of what next level training is, because I don't think a lot of people have heard of it, and it's a shame because it's honestly such a beautiful thing, you know.
Yeah. So I came across Next Level via an acquaintance that I met at Summit of Greatness. And at first, I did not even want to hear about it. I was the person that was instantly skeptical and didn't want anybody to talk to me about things. Like, I was like,
Hmm.
why can't I have entrepreneurial friends without them trying to sell me something? Like, that was a legitimate sentence that I had used at the time. And then, like a couple months later, I was following up with people from the summit and I talked to the person who invited me and I told him not to bring it up. And of course, he did anyway because he knew better and he was looking out for my best interest. But he brought it up and I was like, okay, fine. Like, I was at a place where I just wanted to try something, I was open to it. And so then I went and it completely rocked my world. It is an emotional intelligence and leadership training. But you get just so much more out of it than that. Like, people come in with such a wide array of different goals that they have from all sorts of ages, backgrounds, races, classes, whatever it is. Like, from top to bottom, side to side, like so many different types of people come and they all get such personalized, amazing experiences because it's what it is a series of exercises that people are walked through that allow them to learn about themselves and learn what's working, what's not working, and they get genuine practice being able to release the things that aren't working for them and practice some of the new things that they want to take to be able to accomplish their goals.
Yeah, and I think like with anything, it's you have to get in the repetition, right? So it sounds
Mhm.
you're still involved with it and you're coaching and you continuously get involved. Like I'm curious as to because you're not getting paid right now by next level, right? You're coaching as a volunteer thing, right?
So when you go through the training, you actually get the opportunity to come back and coach on a volunteer basis. Yes. So have gone back a couple times now and coached different cycles. So I've coached people who have come after me and are completing the training.
Hmm.
And I've gotten the opportunity and the blessing to be able to support others through their journey, their self discovery toward accomplishing their amazing goals. And I've spent a lot of time doing so. And it's been quite honestly the most fulfilling experience I've ever had.
Hmm. Yeah, hearing you like say it, I could definitely feel it, right? It's very genuine, you know, because I do think you're right. I think a lot of people are skeptical. I mean, I'll be honest, like even I was a little bit skeptical, right? Because
Mhm.
I've done a lot of other coaching programs, but I do think what separates I guess like what I notice about next level is just like the genuine love that you get, and it doesn't feel like forced, you know. It's like very, I don't know, it just seems like everyone's super authentic, you know, like
Mhm.
there's less like of an agenda, you know. I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I really,
Mhm.
right before this I just had our coaching call,
Mhm.
first one. So it was our group call, and it's always so nice to connect with everyone. And actually, a lot of people from Next Level also come from a similar background, like people that have a social work background as well.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who come from a lot of different backgrounds, like so many. And but like you said, the common thread that ties them all together in the end ends up being the love and the connection and the whatever it is that they come in, you know, like all of those like gems that are operational in our day to day. Like that ends up tying people together that would never have met. Like there are people now that I'm like, I didn't even know you existed a year ago, and I love you now, like with everything that I have, you know? So just to even be afforded that opportunity to meet new people that are in that same space, like has been a huge blessing.
And then you also met your partner through it as well, right?
Yeah. 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 I have so much to be thankful for. And honestly, like we joke because it's an experiential training. So it's like we have all of these experiences that we shared and like our growth from the bottom up. Like we flushed out all of the like dirty laundry, quote unquote, at the beginning versus like a year or 2 years into the relationship.
Yeah.
So we get to play with that the entire time, which I think is so amazing. And honestly, like I wish a lot of people would have that experience within their relationship sooner rather than later, because the tools that we got, an understanding of each other and how each other operates is unprecedented in my opinion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I guess like one of the things I always learn from the world of coaching is like being 100% responsible and not
Yes.
change someone, and kind of like just accepting them, not from a place of like resignation, but from a place of like, hey, like, you know, like I will accept you for who you are, but I do know that, you know, we can all improve always, right? But then also just being responsible that like, like some of these thoughts, it's because I want you to be a certain way, or like I have like expectations that maybe, you know, I feel like that's one of the big takeaways from being doing this work a lot of.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that ties to what we were just talking about of the agenda. I mean, the agenda comes and is tied directly to, in my opinion, the expectation. Like
uh
if we have an expectation and we set, you know, based on our own experiences, based on our own wants, our own needs, our own thought processes, whatever, and then we project that onto other people or we expect something from other people, then it comes across. And like everything in that relationship, the communication, whatever it is from that point is reflecting that mindset because we literally inject it into the relationship.
Yeah, I like how you described it. Haven't thought of it as like an agenda of what your partner, but that
Hmm.
describe it. That makes a lot of sense. Huh. Cool. Well, I mean, I think one of the awesome things about Next Level as well, there's a lot of community work. I feel like there's a
Mm.
really cool project because in Landmark, which is a different coaching program, we each have our own individual project, right? But what I found to be unique about Next Level, it's a community project where everyone supports like a single cause, and I found that to be interesting. Would love to hear like some of the projects you've been involved with and some of the huge takeaways you've got from that.
Yeah. So the last part of the 3-part trainings that they do, there's a community service project, which as a group and as a team, everyone decides on. So people bring forward their like proposals of which nonprofit they want to work with, and then everyone as a collective decides on it. And then everyone as a collective decides on how much they're going to be raising for that nonprofit. And then everyone has individual goals. And as a team, they come together and raise the funds for that nonprofit. They only have 3 weeks to do it, which is
Oh,
amazing. The
okay.
the last one for Philadelphia just ended on Friday, and they beat the record. So they raised like, I think now the number is up to like 110,000.
Yeah, I think it's higher than that now.
Like
Yeah.
crazy. Like in
Amazing.
the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of their training going from in person to completely online, they managed to raise the highest that Philadelphia has had.
Hmm.
And I think that that is community in and of itself. Yeah, like we create community as we go with these nonprofits, but like in and of itself, to have this group of people decide like, I am going to be one small part of this larger thing, and everyone on my team, we're all working toward this shared goal. I think that's very rare
Hmm.
to have such commitment in such a short amount of time with everything that's going on.
Yeah, it is incredible, right? Like you said, during a pandemic, because I think a lot of people would be like, well, why, there's a scarcity context, right? It's like,
Mhm.
I don't even know if I have a job, or like, I'm furloughed, right? But then it really goes to show that there's abundance everywhere, especially
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
And honestly, those conversations that people have with themselves and then have with other people within that context of like raising money, if that's what we're talking about, like those are major breakthroughs for a lot of people. Or
Hmm.
just because it is, they can choose the scarcity mindset or they can choose the abundance mindset. And whatever they choose, they get to take with them, but it's their choice ultimately.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think what's interesting is like if you're committing to an amount, right? I'm sure there's people that are like gung ho about it and they're like doing whatever, and then some people, there's breakdowns, right? Ultimately, when you're committed to something big, there's always going to be breakdowns. But it's interesting to see how people support each other and all that goes through, right? Because it's there's so much that happens behind the scenes, right? Because I'm sure there's multiple breakdowns, right? Like
Hmm.
be week one and then week two, and then like I feel like leading up to it, and then some people step up, and then some people probably become overwhelmed or isolate and kind of go back to maybe just what they're comfortable with, right? So it's interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah. And it's also a place where it's like, it's an opportunity like anything else, like people choose to be there. And it's like, the breakdowns are almost welcome in a sense because of the fact that there's a breakthrough that happens after them. And that's what the coaches are there for, and that's what the captains are there for, and that's what all of these people are there for, is like to hold the context. Because for some people, this is the first time they're doing anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And others are more like seasoned, experienced within the like a similar field or a nonprofit or whatever it is. And either way, I think that everyone has their breakdowns so that they can have their breakthroughs. Like you said, some more than others, but as a whole and as a collective, like they move toward whatever it is that they need, and it's perfect for everyone. Like they get whatever they needed, and it looks different for everyone, like you're saying,
Yeah.
but everyone walks out with something, which I think is beautiful.
And I think the key is to not judge yourself if you didn't necessarily like get the like if you compare yourself to like someone else, right? It,
Yeah. Yes,
yeah,
that's major. Comparison, I mean, is so like huge in progress. If someone can let go of the comparison game, it's like it just becomes them with them. And if we operate from that mindset in any given moment, we don't even have to be in like a competition or whatever, like in any given moment, if we're operating from just like me with me, Sabrina with Sabrina, what does Sabrina want? What does Sabrina like? What is Sabrina's next thing? next step, next goal, next accomplishment.
Hmm.
Like, just the quality of my thoughts
Mm.
are so much better. And the quality of the work that's produced from that place is so much better because we're not trying to be someone else. I did that for a long time with writing. Like, because I'm writing books and we've talked about this, but like I'm writing fiction books right now. I've published a poetry book already, and with writing, I have looked at so many so many writers' stuff. Everyone's writing style is different. How expressive they are with one thing is different than the other thing. Like in depth words they use, like so many things that could be different and amazing, and it works for them and it's their voice. But I spent a long time being like, I want to describe something exactly the way they did, and it doesn't work because everything that I write is my voice.
Mm.
So I need to know what that is, so I need to explore that. And like that's a continuous process for me, but like if I hadn't explored that, then the quality of writing that I have now, which I'm genuinely proud of now, would not be a thing.
Mm.
I would still be trying to study other people's stuff. And
Mm.
I think that that goes for everything, especially in this like entrepreneurial game. You read a lot of books, you watch a lot of podcasts, you like do all these other things. And it's amazing the wealth of knowledge we have. And also like listen to it and then apply it to yourself and like filter it through your voice and then see what comes from that. I think is like the best advice I've ever given anybody. Because
Uh,
that's authenticity, right?
mm. Yeah, yeah, you actually inspired me. So this week I blocked off 30 minutes every morning, like super early in the morning, to do fiction writing for this
Mhm.
week. So already just from like a quick conversation we had today, I made that commitment to my team earlier when we had our next level weekly team meetings.
Mhm.
That's what they're holding me accountable to. So
Yay! Yeah.
I'm super
And
excited. I'll let you know how it goes.
good. I'm excited. Yeah. And like use the time, right? To just explore what it sounds like what fiction sounds like for you.
Right. Yeah.
Because like the way you see the world is the way people want to see the world. But like if you're busy seeing the world from you and then trying to see it the same way J.K. Rowling saw it, you know what I mean? It's like it just won't, like you'll be like within something else, and it's like you have glasses on or like a filter, and it's like people actually want to know what you have to say.
Yeah.
And our first instinct is not always that.
Yeah, I could see that just because I think too often we're trying to like be something we're not, and then when we try to do that, it just comes off as like uncertain or just it just doesn't come off as genuine sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we will run out of material. We will, because if we're like, oh, I can't do this thing until I've studied enough of this other thing, it's like we'll be in this loop where we're like, I need to consume, I need to consume, I need to consume, because like I have no well of my own. I keep filling up my cup with someone else's well, and then mine is like right over there, totally full, but
Hmm.
I'm not like thinking of it. I'm not bringing it into consideration. And if we went over to our own well,
Hmm.
started filling up our cup, we would know that it's endless. And actually filling up our cup with our own stuff makes it so that there's more and more and more and more. Like that's like building upon the foundation of what we're creating.
And I love it. And this probably ties into my next question, but is there a specific type of person that you attract into your life? Because I'm sure those are the type of people that, your coaching practice, like just by law of attraction and just your energy, is
Mm.
one thing that a lot of people like come to you for, that you know is a common theme or trend?
Yeah, so it's so funny because I attract the people that are me a couple of years ago. And I think that someone told me one time that like our clients are us just like a couple steps back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true because like without even trying, the people who have come to me have been the people who, same thing as I was saying earlier, just like overthinkers, have the agenda, like go, go, go. Like they get to access like that heart space or get out of their heads or learn the flow, learn their own authenticity, their own voice, see what that means, give themselves the grace to be able to explore that and build the confidence within that. And I it's so funny because it's not a conscious thing for me. I'm not like, I need this person. And like, I'm like sifting through my contacts and being like, who is there? Like, but a lot of times in my coaching, I find that I'm saying exactly what I needed to hear.
That's so interesting. So so how do people come to do, is it a lot of times people be like, oh, you should talk to Sabrina? Like, is that how you get most of people that come to you? I'm curious as to, I'm sure it doesn't look like a certain way. I'm sure it's different,
Mhm.
but is it often, like one of your friends or something, it's like, oh, actually, I think you should talk to Sabrina. Like, I'm curious as to like how people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a mixture of that and also just people continually seeing my content and then me having a genuine conversation with them. Like them being present to what I'm putting out and like really liking the positivity or what I'm speaking about, whatever it is that resonates with them. And then me just having a conversation with them, seeing where they're at, seeing what it is that they want to accomplish, and genuinely caring about them accomplishing it.
Mm.
And then offering whatever I have best to be able to suit their needs and seeing if they want to be a part of it, if they want to take that next step for themselves.
That's interesting. And well, this is maybe like a side note, but and then so you also come from a social work background. I'm curious to, would you be able to distinguish the difference between the two, like coaching and perhaps like social work? Because I think sometimes people, there's like a gray area.
Yeah, so I get this question a lot actually because I have a social work background and a lot of my education is around the therapist field, and a lot of people don't really know what the difference is between like coach, therapist, mentor, teacher, all of those things. And I found that this one analogy works really well to describe it. So basically a therapist works off of the DSM-5, which is a book that supports them in diagnosing people. So they work off of a diagnosis and then they work with different means of supporting or not solving, but like really being able to get that person to a functional level within that diagnosis. And so if there was a boat, right, and the boat had a hole in it and it was sinking,
Mm.
a therapist would come in and put a diagnosis on that boat, and then they would be able to insert whatever service or approach to be able to solve that problem. So the boat was floating, it stayed floating.
Wow.
So they get people to a functional level, right?
Huh.
And there's a lot of past also that therapy focuses on, like what caused the boat to start sinking, kind of thing. And coaching is the boat is already functional. We come in with the understanding that people have all of the tools, everything that they need to be able to operate the boat. And we are just supporting the driver with guiding them toward the goal or the end point. So it's a very like future focused, solution focused approach.
Mhm.
It dives a little bit into the past, but the past is not the focus necessarily always. And really, again, it's like coming from that place of how can we make movement here? And you have everything that you need, even if we have to kind of dissect it and like reverse some things, put some new things in, whatever it is, like but you have everything you need, so you don't need to necessarily be diagnosed with anything. You don't need medication, like that type of stuff.
And then do some people come to you as like a consultant, like at like do because I think sometimes people don't know the difference between like a consultant and a coach as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So a consultant is basically someone who has some sort of expertise in that field. And it's more of a telling relationship rather than a guiding relationship.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I am an expert in like sales. And then it's like, okay, well, you asked me to consult for your business on sales. So I'm telling you how to do it.
Hmm.
I'm telling you what works, what doesn't work, and then by me telling you, you are able to do what you need to do. Versus coaching is more like, all right, you want more clients, you want, more sales, whatever it is. And I am asking really thought-provoking, powerful questions. I'm giving you what I like to call dream work, which is like homework or action steps to be able to solve those problems so that you actually have the skill to take with you going forward. And you are building upon your own understanding to be able to accomplish whatever it is that you need.
That's a really good explanation. I like it.
Thank you.
So it seems like so you're a writer, you're a coach, you do social work. Like, I guess I'm curious, like, what's your like big vision? Because it does seem like you're up to a lot and you're doing a lot of cool things. Yeah, I'm curious as to what your ultimate vision is.
Yeah, so I feel as though I am really meant to provide a level of empathy in this world that is not easily accessed by a lot of people. And my vision is to be able to do that in environments that are traditionally disconnected from that space. Bring healing and bring kindness and bring love and community and connection. All of those like really core ways of being out into the places that need them most. The modality for doing that, I definitely see the coaching, bringing that more large scale. I'm starting to do more workshops now in person and online, of course, online now that everything is happening with the pandemic. But I'm really excited about where I see myself taking all of this because I think that part of it is going to come to me just in terms of like how big am I going to take this? I'm game to take it as big as I can. But fundamentally, that's what I see is being a source of love and kindness and connection and spreading that so far.
Love it. And did you ever think, so it looks like, did you grow up in the Boston area? Like you were in Massachusetts?
So I'm originally from Massachusetts. I was about 45 minutes outside of Boston.
Did you imagine that you would come down here, or did you see that coming?
I absolutely did not. I was actually like, I really love Massachusetts and I will never leave. And here I am in New Jersey. But now that I have left and I've taken that leap, I don't know if I want to go back. I really like it. Like, I really love, and I don't know if this is just a shift in environment equaled a shift in mindset kind of thing, but it just feels right to me. I feel like this was the next step that I needed to take
Hmm.
to be able to access the next phase in my life.
It seems like you have like pretty good intuition, like, because I think sometimes people think like intuition's like not like a real thing. It's like there's got to be facts or whatever science.
Yeah.
But how would you describe like getting in touch with one's intuition?
Oh my God. I love this question because I used to be one of those people that was absolutely in need of facts and natural skeptic, like we said earlier. Like, I did not trust any of that. I actually didn't really have a good relationship to any sort of universal spirituality kind of thing. And through my own personal journey inward to myself and via the conclusions that I've come to, just with
Mm.
finding out that emotion is the key to everything, and there are things that we can feel that might not make sense in our mind right away but actually matter, and all of those things, my intuition has become so much stronger. And the quality of my work, whatever I produce, whether it be for coaching, workshop, just day-to-day conversations, enrollment, whatever it is, I yield so much better of a result when I come from a feeling space, which allows me the freedom to just flow,
Mm.
which I believe is truly the birthplace of intuition. And when people can actually get out of their head long enough to feel something and then see what is actually calling to them or they're being guided to do, I think that they would be so much happier, but also whatever they're doing would be so much more in alignment to who they are. But it requires that checking in, like that first step, instead of like just doing the thing, being like, okay, so what is my intention with this? What am I feeling? And not ignoring it, because I did that also for a long time.
Hmm. So how did you know, like, how did you know that you were ignoring it? Because if it wasn't for next level, you probably wouldn't have known, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because so again, like next level unlocked for me the understanding that to feel actually means to accomplish whatever it is that I want. And when I can access the emotion within myself to then conjure that up whenever I need to create whatever I want, that is actually when I am successful. And to operate from a place of just head, there will always be something missing for me. And so once I got that understanding, I allowed myself the freedom and the space to be able to just check in with feeling, because I can think my way through anything. And I like am like on the ball. I will come up with this solution A, B, C, D, E, F, like whatever, and I know it's right. But then if I check in with myself and I'm like, okay, but what am I feeling in regards to this specific situation? I know, and we all have that deep inner knowing that some of us are more practiced at using than others. But if we can access that deep inner knowing and trust it and actually listen to it, and when I say listen, I mean have our behavior reflect the feeling versus our thought process,
Yeah.
then I think would be so much better off. And like I just speak from my own personal experience coming from one space to another, like it really makes a huge difference, especially with the authenticity piece, as we're saying. Like, just an example of a situation is okay, so I go to a job interview, right? And I can go to the job interview and theoretically it could check all the boxes. But then I go there and I get this feeling when I'm in the space that like the way that people are operating
Mm.
are not in alignment with who I am. And that could just be like people are short, people don't talk, people are just kind of like going through the motions, whatever it is. But you kind of feel that. And you just again, it could check all the boxes, but if I get that feeling and I'm checking in with myself, I'm like, I actually feel uncomfortable here. Like it wasn't just the secretary that made me feel uncomfortable. It was the interviewer. It was everyone sitting in the lobby. It was all these people walking around. Like just the vibe of the place made me feel a certain way. And I get to choose whether I commit to that and ignore my feeling or not. And a lot of people ignore the feeling and then commit to these places and end up leaving in a couple of years because they realize it's not in alignment with what they want. And sometimes, if they're lucky, they find what they want and they get that feeling and they trust it and then they pursue it. But if they had trusted it in the beginning and they listened to it, they could have waited and the next job interview could have checked all the boxes and also made them feel fantastic while they were there.
Hmm. Yeah. And then you also mentioned like something that was interesting to me, like something about like a spiritual practice. Like you said at one point,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. So like I guess elaborate, because I do think a lot of people like don't have a spiritual practice, or I feel like nowadays like more than ever like people feel disconnected, if anything, right? So
Yeah.
spiritual connection with the world or everything.
Yeah, I think that it is super important, and it doesn't always have to look the way people think it does. That's something that I've found out for myself through trial and error, is that spirituality could mean anything that allows me to have a connection to something outside of myself that is giving
Mm.
and that I can give to. So for me, it's like I like to say the word universe is just a very holistic thing that I think that we are all gifted from and we can all give to. And within that, there are so many practices that I could do and that anybody could do to connect themselves to that bigger thing. And for some people, that means labeling it a certain religion. And for other people, that means leaving the freedom, and like having a more general description of it. But the practices are very similar, I've found. Like just taking the intentional time to sit with oneself, like meditation or prayer, like people speaking to something outside of themselves, having faith, having hope that is spread from something outside of themselves, looking for guidance, looking for wisdom, all of those things. um, it's so accessible to everyone and so grounding. Talk about like a well for authenticity. There is just like when you have a relationship to something that is undeniable and that you can continually lean on, like how powerful is that?
Hmm. It and it sounds like how does one, because I feel like you're obviously at a place that you've had a lot of practice and it took you some time to, so how would you suggest for someone just to start, just like as a practice to start, and then yeah.
I would say be very open. So put yourself in a mindset where you can just be able to receive whatever it is that comes, and then explore in whatever way seems fun and that you can play with. So that could mean, like, for me, I went to a spiritual shop, like the most random place. And I was just kind of like looking at this stuff,
Hmm.
seeing what called out to me at the time. I picked up a deck of cards that I do readings with to this day with. And then it just went from there. I was like, okay, so I have this deck of cards. It's like within the card deck showed me how to access some of that intuition, put myself in an intentional meditative state where I'm actually asking for guidance and being able to receive it. And then it just kept going and going and going. And it's like I was suddenly having more conversations with people about it. I was listening to more podcasts that gave me more information about it. I was just like finding myself in spaces where it was coming to mind more. And instead of shunning whatever came to me, actually taking it in and taking stock of what it could mean, assigning meaning to things, because like to me, nothing happens for no reason. Like everything has a purpose if we give it, everything has meaning if we give it. And we can choose empowering meanings or we can choose disempowering meanings. And it doesn't really change the fact, though, that we are in a constant state of receiving, should we acknowledge it.
Hmm.
So if we put ourselves in that state first of being able to receive and then giving ourselves the tools and the resources and just playing with it, seeing what comes to us, whatever it might be. Again, like that might be religion, that might be just general spiritual stuff. Then We see what we don't like, and we see what we do like by checking in with ourselves and trusting our intuition when it says like I like this and I don't like this.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because I do think some people are very much more like in their heads. So what's
Hmm.
a couple practices like if you find yourself like in your head too much, what are some simple practices that we can use to bring us back to the present moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I like, because I'm someone who operates out of their head a lot and I can get stuck in there very easily. Um, I personally like putting on music,
Mm,
but like certain types of music for me is very supportive. So I will put on like my diffuser with essential oils, I'll light a candle, I'll put on an incense, whatever it is. For me, when I'm in my head, I like to create the environment around me that supports me shifting the mindset. So, and within that, coupling it with movement.
mm,
Because if I'm in my head, everything that's operating in there is not actually focusing on everything that's operating out here.
yeah.
So, like by forcing myself, to focus on the outside,
Mm,
it just gets me out. And so like I'll create the environment, put on the music and just dance.
mm, that's
And
awesome.
like whatever I'm feeling that day. Sometimes I'm feeling sassier, sometimes I'm feeling like just like slower, whatever. But I give myself that space and it always helps. And that can be a very spiritual experience.
Huh. Wait, say more. Now I'm curious.
Curious about which part?
The dancing part can be a very spiritual experience.
Oh, yeah, because it's dancing could be the same as meditating.
Mm,
Like, if you really think about it, when you are meditating, you're creating the environment most of the time or just, like, putting yourself in a mental space,
mhm,
and you get to define what that looks like, just as we all do, and I choose to define that as time with myself and then connecting to something outside of myself.
hmm,
Which I think again describes spirituality. But like, I'll put on some music that is just like instrumentals or like tribal music or
mm,
whatever really has that grounding effect for me.
yeah.
Most of the time doesn't even have words. And I just move to it. And I feel like I'm communicating with the world my feeling, my inner knowing via my movement. And also, I'm putting myself in a space of receiving and playing with whatever is meant for me or is being given to me via the movement, also. So sometimes that looks like I'm super happy and I'm jumping around and I'm just like giving everything, like all of my joy, and then receiving all of the joy
Mm,
that it has to give to me. And then sometimes it's like, I'm sad and I just need a place to put it and I want guidance and I just like move, close my eyes, like it's me with me, but whatever comes to me, like my inner knowing or whatever is gifted to me, like I am putting myself in a space where I can hear it.
wow, that's actually hearing you say this kind of reminds me of the last day of the Summit of Greatness when we were all
Mhm.
dancing. We were all opened up from the whole 3 days, and it was it was to your point like like a spiritual experience when we were all just so open and free. And I've never danced so like freely without fear of judgment of how I looked, and it was such
Mm.
experience. I just remember being like so happy and just so present. And it was just such a fascinating experience. But hearing you say that, I could see how for you it is a spiritual experience too. And then you're being in touch with yourself and then also everyone else as well, right?
Yeah, like, and again, the same way someone might meditate to receive like whatever messages that they need to receive, like, and that could come from anywhere. That could just be like stored in the back of their mind and that they never accessed. Like, it's the same way, it's just with movement. And it's really supportive for people who are in their heads a lot to
Yeah.
just get out of their head. And if you want to really make it you with you and not have it be like, the judgment or like the overthinking, whatever, which might be the case in the beginning, but like as you keep moving, you give yourself the space to like loosen up. But closing your eyes is really supportive
Hmm.
because nothing else exists except for you with you.
Hmm.
And it's just like, I'm here. I'm like tapping into all like the senses, and I'm just leaving myself open, and whatever comes, whatever kind of movement comes, and it's okay. I don't know what's happening around me. Like, it's fine.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Sabrina. I never actually I didn't expect us to kind of talk about a lot of these really cool topics, but I thought it was really interesting. I feel like there were a lot of takeaways and like how to like just connect with yourself and just how to connect with our own like intuition. Uh,
Mhm.
so there was also a lot of just like I mean I honestly didn't expect a conversation about spirituality.
Neither did I, but I really like it.
Oh, like you're clearly and it's cool because you can see the connection because you're like so spiritually connected to yourself and everyone else around that you don't necessarily like it doesn't seem like you have an agenda because you see yourself as one, right? It's like you're
Mhm.
very connected to other people and people can genuinely feel that you care for them, right? It's not like I'm trying to get you somewhere or I'm trying to or I have these expectations of you. It's kind of just like, yeah, like I'm just vibing, I'm just connecting with a
Mhm.
human being. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge you for your the space that you're creating for your community and your friends and your like everything that you're a part of, and also just like you giving back to the world and you stepping into just new situations and then being and just having fun in the moment. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, my community leaders who love, I'm very excited because I think that platform that is giving me to be able to create that community and that love and that connection, like you were saying,
Mhm.
is going to open a lot of doors for a lot of people. So if anybody would like to join, absolutely on Facebook, Leaders Who Love.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I could link to that in this podcast. And yeah, really enjoyed this experience. I can't believe like an hour went by. Like that was such a
I know.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sabrina. Oh yeah, and if anyone wants to reach out to you other than on your Facebook community, how else can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a website, Sabi Artistry, SABI artistry.com. Sabrina or Sabi Artistry on Facebook and Instagram, and sabiartistry at gmail.com.
Cool. Thank you. I'll link to all that as well. So
Great.
take care. Hope you have a good week ahead of you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.